Left-Hand Canyon is emerging from its long slumber as spring loosens winter's icy grip. But beneath the canopy of pines, a discovery rocks Boulder County.
The Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, two tourists in Left-Hand Canyon in Boulder County go for a little hike. They crossed a little stream and began to make their way back into the woods, away from the road. And what they found was the body of a naked woman.
The body was described as a white female, probably about 5 feet tall, and she was a heavy-set woman. We had no identification on the victim or no idea who she was, and her clothing had been taken away. The call to the sheriff's office came in to us at about 2 p.m. The investigators at the scene thought that she had been there no longer than 24 hours at most. There did not appear to be any sort of a sign of a struggle or other forced activity.
It appeared that there was some sort of consensual sexual encounter. It didn't look like the body had been dumped there. It was very clear that someone had tried to obscure the body by covering it with pine branches.
Pretty quickly, they realized that her throat had been slit. They observed the ligature marks around her neck as well.
While detectives try to determine how the victim got there and find some lead to her killer's identity, the medical examiner brings in the body for autopsy.
The forensic pathologist collected a rape kit, or a sexual assault evidence collection kit.
It was way in the early stages of DNA. DNA was not really something that was taken into consideration in 1987.
Fingerprinting the victim, however, gives detectives their first big break, a name from a minor misdemeanor offense.
The fingerprints that were taken from the body were matched through the system to Carol Joyce Murphy, a 27-year-old woman from Longmont.
Back in remote Left-Hand Canyon, investigators interview anyone in the surrounding area, looking for leads.
Officers found someone who was camping nearby who recalled seeing two people on a motorcycle show up at the campground. They were both wearing helmets, which kept her from being able to give us any sort of description as to who they were.
She was awoken by a motorcycle at what she thought was around 11:30 in the morning. The woman that described the motorcycle being predominantly black, but believed that there was some yellow color tint to it as well, although she couldn't remember exactly, but it was just information that she thought may be helpful to the investigation.
Investigators talked to her co-workers at a company in Longmont where she was a security guard.
That about 8:45 or 9 o'clock in the morning, one of her coworkers observed a gentleman pull up on a motorcycle, which he described as similar to a Honda Goldwing, which was a black motorcycle with very distinctive yellow features. Carol went out, got on that motorcycle, and left.
Coworkers indicated that the person had a helmet on the majority of the time.
That became a critical piece of information in the investigation.
Detectives had focused in on Curtis Murphy as the most recent husband. Curtis was ultimately eliminated as a suspect. Investigators moved on to Kevin Elmar, the ex-husband of Carol Murphy.
Kevin Elmar is also the father of Carol Murphy's two children, who are 10 and 8 years old.
I was teamed up with another detective, and the two of us were given the assignment to interview Kevin Elmar.
The two detectives traveled to Kevin's home in Longmont, just a few minutes from Carol's apartment, and knock on the door.
Kevin said that he had last seen Carol Murphy that morning, earlier before her body was found. She was just getting off work on a night shift, but he drove past her on his way to turn in a job application.
Kevin Elmar owned a yellow and black gold wing motorcycle that fit the description of the motorcycle when Carol Murphy left on it, as well as the motorcycle in the area where Carol's body had been found.
The lieutenant asked us to bring Kevin into the Justice Center in Boulder for a more thorough interview.
You killed Carol? No. You know who did? No.
Kevin Elmar said that he left Carol Murphy on his way to drop off the job application. We went to several grocery stores where we showed his picture to the staff. There's no corroboration that we could find.
It was pretty clear that Kevin Elmar was the prime suspect. I think it became a question of how long was it going to take to find every piece of evidence that we needed in order to hold Kevin Elmar accountable.
The investigation sputters, and the case of the young security guard mom grows colder than the snow-capped peaks of the towering Rockies.
I was assigned the Carol Murphy homicide investigation in December of 2004 as part of a cold caseload. I reassessed what evidence we had, really with an eye for, is there scientific advancement that would give us new leads and new direction?
DNA taken from Carol Murphy's body at the autopsy could now be the key to unlocking this 17-year murder mystery.
The DNA section of the CBI laboratory had 2 DNA profiles that were developed. We were able to attribute one definitively to Willie, who had disclosed he had had sexual relationship with Carol within the days leading up to her death. Who is this other profile?
Detectives have a hunch the other DNA belongs to their prime suspect, Kevin Elmar, Carol's first husband and father of their now-grown 2 children.
We needed to get the DNA profile from Kevin Elmar to compare to the forensic samples.
I obtained a court order to collect buccal swabs from Kevin Elmar in August of 2006. A little over 19 years since Carol's murder. I was able to collect multiple buccal swabs from Kevin Elmar. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation had been able to do a definitive match. I believe it was 99.999998% of the population could be excluded, which left Kevin as the only probable contributor in the world.
The arrest warrant was signed January 29th of 2007. Kevin Elmar was arrested that same day.
August of 2009, Kevin Elmar was convicted of first-degree murder after deliberation, and he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
In December of 2013, I received a phone call from the district attorney's office stating that the case had been overturned and that we would have to have another trial.
The Court of Appeals was saying that Mr. Elmar should have had the opportunity to advance certain alternate suspects to the jury that had been precluded in the first trial.
The retrial went on for 2 weeks. I was unsure of what would happen.
Once you finish closing and the jury is excused to go back and deliberate, for me, there is a certain feeling of helplessness. Fortunately, in this case, we didn't have to wait that long. It was less than a day. I think it was maybe a matter of 4 or 5 hours.
On October 23rd, 2015, the jury returned a verdict of guilty in the Kevin Elmar case to the charge of first-degree murder.
For murder in the first degree, there is only one sentence that a judge can impose, and that is life in the Department of Corrections. Justice was ultimately served in this case. It just was far too long in coming.